Hi, and welcome to the Haverhill Journal, where we take a quick look at what's going on in our city. I'm Lindsay Paris, and I am standing out here on the new boardwalk behind Harborplace, which, in case you didn't know, was named such because this very riverfront used to be a harbor. In honor of that fact, today we have a special episode dedicated to Haverhill's downtown waterfront, from its early beginnings up to the sneak peek of this very boardwalk last week. But first, I'm going to take you back to the spot where it all began. The settlement that would grow into the city of Haverhill started right here at First Landing Park on Water Street with the arrival of English settlers from Newbury. In 1641, they purchased the land from the Pennacook tribe, who called it Pentucket, meaning place by the winding river. There was only one way in and one way out of Haverhill in those early days, so shipbuilding naturally evolved into one of the city's first industries.
Shipbuilding in Haverhill really started at a very early time, about 1671. It was a necessity to get their goods from Haverhill to the ocean. The best way of doing it was through the river. We had an abundance of manpower, we had an abundance of logs, we had an abundance of everything up here, and we had the river. They were doing it with small boats, mainly to catch fish out in the river, and that's how it started, and then from there it just progressed. The peak of shipbuilding in Haverhill came about 1810 when they built over 50 ships in Haverhill at one time. 10% of the population in Haverhill worked at the shipbuilding industry, either in the yards, cabinet makers, blacksmiths, and it sort of kept right on going till about 1840 when the last ship was built.
But use of the river for trade kept growing. The golden days were in the late 1800s, when the city became an inland settlement port. Lumber, coal, paving stones, and exotic goods from China were offloaded along the docks below Water Street. Touring steamboats came in the late 1800s. The most famous steamer, the City of Haverhill, a 715-foot-long stern-wheeler with two spacious decks carrying up to 1,000 people. Chase's Wharf, the hub of downtown boat traffic, opened on this spot in 1833 as a lumber wharf, but quickly evolved into a place where you could catch an excursion boat, like the City of Haverhill, to go up the river to Newburyport and beyond. If you were really eager to get out of town, the captain would even take you as far as the Isles of Shoals.
There were several steamers that ran up and down the river. One was called the Lawrence, one was called the Merrimack, and one was called the City of Haverhill. For 50 cents, you could get aboard the Merrimack, take a 45-minute trip down to Plum Island or the Black Rocks or Salisbury Beach. 50 cents would bring you down the river and up. It took approximately 45 minutes to do this.
The steamer only ran for a couple of decades before it was driven out of business by the electric railway. The last steamer trip was in September 1910. By the mid-1800s, the average depth of the river was only about 7 feet at low tide, so the size and number of boats traveling the Merrimack was limited.
The Merrimack River was much deeper in the 16th, 17th centuries, but once they put the Middlesex Canal in Lowell, which was put in to bring goods from southern New Hampshire, Lowell and Lawrence, down through Concord, Billerica, into Boston, it was cheaper to do with the Middlesex Canal than it was to ship it to Haverhill. Plus the river slowly started getting filled in through mainly factories were dumping into the river, and the river got very shallow, and it was being filled in the lower part of the river, and ships couldn't get up and down the river anymore. The last ship to sail up the river under her own power was a schooner called the Bessie Moss. She was from New Brunswick, Canada. She sailed up in May of 1922. She was the last ship to sail up on the in tide under her own power. The shoe industry had started, better wages. It was more work and steady work. So that's why the shoe industry sort of did away with the shipbuilding in Haverhill.
With development and construction of the floodwall, downtown river access has been blocked for longer than any of us can remember. This boardwalk behind Haverhill Bank was constructed in the 80s and was intended to be extended all the way down. And now finally, over 30 years later, that's finally come to fruition. We were at the special sneak peek of the new boardwalk last week.
Well, this is a great day for the City of Haverhill. Today we celebrate the opening of the Boardwalk, and of course the Boardwalk is part of a very important development in downtown Haverhill called Harborplace.
It's a great asset to the city, and we will all be doing the walk of bridge to bridge, won't we?
When you walk this boardwalk for the first time, you're thinking, oh, it's going to be short and small. When you get on it, it opens up quite a length of ways, all the way up between the two bridges, and it's just an amazing way to connect the whole city.
1, 2, 3.
Welcome to Haverhill's new boardwalk. As so many people have been asking and watching from a distance the boardwalk construction and the development work, and we thought it'd be kind of fun for the community to come in and walk the boardwalk. It's about 650 feet of new boardwalk that runs from the Basileia Bridge to the previous boardwalk, and that's got to be, I don't know, 25 plus years. The concept was building that initial boardwalk as kind of a demonstration project with the hope of connecting someday and expanding it. I guess we've just expanded it now by maybe a multiple of about 10. It's a pretty special setting in terms of the ability to have a nice stroll along the waterfront that really wasn't possible.
I remember this area when I was just a very young girl coming along here. At that time it was an old dirt road down behind these buildings, and we were almost afraid to even walk down here because of the different things that we probably would run into. But look at it today. This is like a miracle. I feel like I went, as I walked along the boardwalk today, into the land of Oz.
What we're looking at here right now under construction is the Harborplace Plaza. The concept here is a public plaza and an access way to the waterfront. And what you see here is kind of, we call it the shark fin. And this will be all green here, all grassed area and trees and such, so that you can come out and if you want to sit out there like you can in Post Office Square in Boston. And then what you're seeing on the first floor are 4 locations for Prospect restaurants. And each one of these locations has outside areas designated to them for outside dining. The plaza is scheduled for completion in November, and shortly thereafter, with restaurants moving in, might be a little cold in December, but by springtime, opportunity to dine outside and enjoy your meal, and then have a chance to walk the boardwalk and enjoy this beautiful scenery and setting. And a very interesting feature along the outside radius, you'll notice is some gold brick. And those brick were salvaged from the prior Woolworth building. We thought it would be something new and something old and preserved in terms of the flavor of the city.
I am very pleased to see the completion of this. I took a picture of my son right where we're standing before it was finished. And so now I'm able to walk it, which is very, very happy to do so.
In terms of the actual construction and the development of Harborplace, we're now looking at completion of the plaza in a mid-November timeframe. And we plan to have a grand opening of Harborplace along with the boardwalk at that time.
Harborplace is made possible through a great team effort with the Greater Haverhill Foundation, the Planning Office for Urban Affairs, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, all of us coming together with a vision to do something very transformative for the city of Haverhill, which includes not only taking the old Woolworth property and those properties adjacent to it, but also adding the boardwalk, which many of us in Haverhill have wanted for so many years, to capitalize on the Merrimack River.
For the first time in, I think, over 80 years, the public will once again be able to access its Merrimack River, which is a pretty special day.
The boardwalk will open to the public when construction is complete just 2 months from now, and I hope we will see you all out here enjoying the banks of the Merrimack once again. That's it for our special Downtown Riverfront episode of the Haverhill Journal. I'm Lindsay Paris, and we'll see you next time.